Hi everyone, welcome to week 4 of English 102. I am just going to give you a quick intro video to the assignments for this week. You've got your first group assignment coming up, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Week 4 of English 102 is pretty straightforward. This is going to be really where you and your group decide the nuts and bolts of how you're going to start researching the social issue that you've chosen from last week. So the assignments for this week include some readings on writing a research paper and also research questions. Your discussion board number 4 will be due Friday. Your research proposal will be due Sunday. This is a group effort, so your group will turn in one document that you all work in together, and we'll talk more about that in a second. And then you've also got your group blog number 2. Make sure that you check your group page for who should be submitting what and by when. All right, so it was really great to pop into your group meetings this week and get to know you guys a little bit. If you would like me to join you in future meetings, just make sure to send me an email with the day and time. I'm totally willing to be available for you guys if it works with my schedule. So your research proposal. This is a document whose assignment sheet you should have looked over in your first meetings. But essentially, a proposal is just, here is our plan for researching going forward. And it gives me the opportunity as your instructor to see if you are on the right track. So you're going to want it to be in APA format. And then make sure that you've got your cover page, that you have a references page for any sources that you found already or so far. And you won't need an abstract for this assignment because it's a little less formal than your research paper will be. But I do recommend using a Google Doc or some kind of shared document. I actually created a Google Doc folder for each of your groups, and I will drop a proposal document in there that you guys can work in if you so choose. But a Google Doc or a OneDrive shared document work really well in projects like this because all of you can add to the same document and kind of see what each other is doing. Another tip, do your discussion board 4 first before you complete the proposal, because discussion board 4 asks you to think about research questions specifically, and you're going to need those for your proposal. My last tip is to have one of your group members, any of you works, but this might typically fall under the facilitator, have one person edit the document to make sure that it flows well together, that it doesn't just sound like literally 3 different people have made this document. Although that's the reality, and I understand that, you do want to make sure that those pieces are working together, that you guys are transitioning from each part. All right. I will also post a example proposal for you guys to look at. So if you're not sure what you're doing and you're like, oh my God, I can't do this, don't worry, take a deep breath, and I am here for you. So a note about research questions. This is sort of the focus of our readings this week. A research question essentially answers, what do you want to find out about the social issue that you've chosen? So your research proposal will probably take you from this topic, this like sort of big, broad social issue you've chosen. You're then going to think about what background knowledge do you have about this social issue? What kind of assumptions do you come to the table with? What is your kind of working knowledge? And then we are going to get to the third little part of this triangle, which is working questions. So these will eventually become our research questions. But at this point, I want you to think about something specific that you are interested in finding out about your social issue. You should have a unique question. It should not be the same as your other group members. So some other tips for research questions. You guys, the guide I've shared with you on how to write research questions is from this same website. And this guide mentions that your research questions should follow each of these check marks to the left. They should be focused, meaning specific enough that they're not too broad. So if your question is something like, how does racism affect the US? That is really big and probably would take books to answer. You want something that's researchable. I've had students before say, oh, my research question is, how many people have died from COVID-19 in the last year? And although that is a question, it doesn't require research. Remember from week 1 that research is a process of developing different sources, different views, different points about a topic. And if you're asking just for a number, that only requires a Google search. I'm looking for something that requires research, meaning you search, and then you search again, and then you do it again. Others, it should be feasible. Don't make your topic so broad that it would need an entire grant-funded research project, all right? You guys are just 3 or 4 people, and you've only got 12 weeks. Make it specific, complex, and relevant as well. So this guide that you'll read for this week will also have examples under each of these categories, and we'll keep working with these. With your discussion board, I'll read your questions, you'll read each other's, and we'll kind of work to get you to a place where you're going from working questions to research questions. Another thing that your proposal is going to ask you about is research methods. So there are 2 types of research methods that we usually encounter in a research project. The first is primary. So at some point in this semester, we're going to complete either a survey or an interview for your chosen research topic. We won't get to this for a few weeks, but this is essentially research that you do personally as a researcher, all right? The other type of research is called secondary, which is probably what we're doing the most of in this course. Secondary research is articles and information that's like summarizing what someone else has done. So these include database searches, library sources, comparing popular and scholarly sources. That is secondary, all right? And so in your research proposal, it's going to ask you what your methodology is going to be. And what I want you to do is just tell me, where are you going to find your sources and what specifically are you going to look for? The search terms that we discussed in your last discussion board would be a great thing to discuss here. How are you going to find your information? And be specific. Don't just tell me I'm going to look on Google for the sources for this project, because that is not research. All right? So these are kind of building up the skills that we've been practicing in weeks 1 through 3. Other things to keep in mind: your keyword searches from last week's discussion board. Actually, 2 weeks ago. These keyword searches are very important for when you start looking for sources. Your search terms are going to determine the sources that you get. All right. So once you've actually chosen in your group your social issue you're going to focus on, consider discussing who is going to search for what term so that you guys aren't finding all of the same sources, if that makes sense. So let's look at an example. Say the social issue that my group has chosen is racism. If you remember from that big triangle earlier, that's my topic. All right. So I'm going to go with something based on like my own personal knowledge. I'm an instructor. I'm a teacher. I've been a college student, and I know that inequality can be a large barrier for students in a college classroom. I don't specifically, though, know how. So for me as a teacher, my research question is, how does racism affect student success in college? I'm specifically interested in this because I'm a college teacher. I work with these students every day, and I already know that there probably is an effect. I just maybe don't know what kind. So the key concepts I have in my research question here: probably racism, student success, and college. So the search terms I came up with are racism and student success, then maybe racism or discrimination in schools, racism and student, not secondary. So this third one means that I would get results that would cover racism and students, but not secondary school, so not high school. All right, if I wanted to sort of cut those out of my search. I might also say maybe search for something like racism in college or college students and racism. If you get what I'm coming to, you want multiple terms and you want to keep searching in different ways to kind of figure out what you can get back. Another thing too is try not to search for what you think you want. And what I mean by that is try not to say, this is exactly the type of source I'm looking for, and if what I find doesn't match that, I'm not finding anything. And the truth is, sometimes you have to let your sources guide you. your research questions will change. And that's okay. All right? In the sort of process of researching, you'll understand that, like, yes, you have an idea and opinion already, but you don't have all the information yet. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who maybe upon learning new information, something you didn't know before, you change your opinion about it. That happens to all of us, and that's kind of an important part of research. All right, next week is spring break. I'm so excited for spring break. Although I'll be grading, but you guys get the week off, at least from my course. So of course you are more than welcome to start with your projects. If you've got some free time and you want to look ahead to week 6, feel free. But if not, I do encourage you guys to kind of take a break. I know that we've only kind of been in class for a few weeks, but I think there's a lot happening around us, and maybe a break wouldn't be too bad. So once you get your research proposal in, your group blog 2 done, and your discussion board for this week, you are home free. Don't forget, you are to meet with your group once a week for at least 20 to 30 minutes, and that is required. So thank you guys. Thanks for all your hard work, and I will see you soon.